I'm Bobby. That's John Gonzalez. And we're going to talk a little bit about this here transition. I'll give you just a real brief history. Beaches Vineyard Church started back in 1999 as a church plant from Vineyard Church that was in town. It started in a home, and then its first meeting place rented gathering space. Does anybody know? Here's a little Beaches Vineyard trivia pop quiz. Is Kim Green here? Anybody that's been here the whole time? The first place that we rented and gathered in, but this is back before my time, it's probably around 2000. It's when I was graduating high school, the smoke-free class of 2000. Was at the Ribault Garden Club, which is over on 2nd Avenue North. I bring that up because we've been calling around on rented spaces to try to figure out, who has the most availability and is actually very excited to host us, the Ribault Garden Club. So we've come full circle. This stuff keeps happening. It's kind of fun. So almost 4 years ago, Jess and I stepped into the lead role here, and we've been it's been wonderful. It's been challenging. It's been kind of what we expected in some ways, and then also not at all what we expected in other ways. I've gone through a period of time here where people say, "How's it going?" And I say, "Maximum." It's all happening. But over the course of 4 years, just by... You guys know what discernment is? This term, discernment. Let's talk about discernment for a second. So way back at the beginning of the scriptures, Genesis, you guys remember that humankind, we got ourselves in trouble by doing what? Not listening? Or listening? But what happened? The fall. What happened there? Yeah, we ate of the forbidden fruit. You guys happen to recall what? There were 2 trees you weren't allowed to eat anything from, which of course immediately made them the most interesting trees in the garden. But the second tree was the eternal life, right? The first one was what? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Reading through this again as an adult, I was struck by the fact that it seems like having the knowledge of what is good and what is evil would probably be like a helpful function. And so I was a bit curious as to why that's the one we're not supposed to eat. So, you ever thought about that? Because to know good from evil is, we call that function judging. That's what judgment is. And so essentially right out the gate, what we've been asked to do is to not judge, that we'll actually be a lot happier and more content and maybe in line with what the will of God is if we leave the gooding and the eviling up to God, and we sort of, I'll do what? Relax. That sounds good. Trust. Yeah, I think the difference between the knowledge of good and evil and judgment, it can get us pretty far. It's not a bad thing, you ever raise kids? We definitely teach our children to eat from that same tree, all the time, right? So maybe it's not an inherently bad thing to know the difference between good and evil and then to do our best to choose good rather than evil. But what you lose, is, I think, discernment, what discernment is. And discernment is trust. And discernment has to do with a beginner's mind, with being patient enough internally to slow ourselves down from moment to moment and to get off of the reactivity train where we're just sort of pinging between stimulus and and reaction, ding, 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 ding. And life is just nothing but a series of self-fulfilling prophecies or woefully predictable responses. Like, if you had the good pleasure of having someone in your life, a spouse or a sibling or a good friend, who knows you well enough to point out just how predictable your responses are to almost every situation that you face. You think you're making a novel choice, and as it turns out, somebody knows you well enough could have seen the response coming a mile away, this thing. So discernment requires relaxing our normal mode of consciousness, which is, if you look at it closely, not much beyond pattern recognition. I like these kind of people. I don't like those kind of people. Here comes this person. I bet I know where this conversation's going to go. And so if anything, over the last 4 years, I feel like what we've been practicing, Jess and I and us collectively, is just learning discernment and saying yes to things that may have been traditionally not allowed in a church setting. And saying no or taking a pass on things that would seem to be maybe the most obvious thing to do. And it's been a wild ride. So we'll talk about that more in upcoming weeks. But anyway, that's all just a preamble to say there's been a lot of changes, and we've gone through many a transition over the course of these last few years, and here we find ourselves again in another moment of transition. This one was a surprise and not a surprise. Our lease, we signed a 7-year lease about 3 years ago, but the 7-year lease included a 6-month contingency policy whereby either tenant or landlord could terminate the lease with no penalty with 6 months notice. We did our best to negotiate that out of the lease. They weren't really interested in doing so. So we signed it, but as I signed it, I made the comment to our landlord guy. I was like, so this thing's mostly just pretend then, right? Like, it says to make us feel a little bit better about being here. Yeah. Business as usual. Yeah. So, and I'm just gonna be honest, right about, I don't know, coming in towards November, December, the end of last year, I kind of felt like we just got born. I was like, it's all working. Like, we got the cafe, it's thriving. People have figured out that you can come as you are, that you can join in for ecstatic dance or Tony's yoga class or the cafe or, Thursday night cinema, and that none of those things were actually yet another church's ploy. Yeah, exactly. You enjoying that espresso? Can I talk to you a little bit about our salvation program that starts in 5 minutes in the back? Yeah, we did Thursday night cinema for a while. We were playing movies in here, and something funny happened. And this is kind of a symbolically accurate as to the experiment as a whole. But what happened was regular church-going folks were offended at the movies that I should say. I did not choose any of the movies, especially and including the slate of zombie flicks that he decided to kick off Thursday night cinema with. I was like, really, Adam? Really? We have to play Shaun of the Dead, like, in our first week. Like, it was October. It's Halloween, So he just let it happen. So that actually started a whole bunch of great conversations whereby people would be offended that we were playing this movie, and I'd say, do you like that movie? Yeah, it's a great film. You've seen it? Oh, yeah, it's hilarious. I love it. So you just won't watch it in this building? Well, yeah, this is the church. Is it? What is the church, And so that was, one old guy told me, this is on your head, Pastor, verbatim. So I was like, oh, boy. So pray for me. But then on the other side of the coin, we were met with a fairly high degree of skepticism as to what we were actually doing. And actually, some folks from the restaurant next door came by one night, Thursday night cinema. There's about 7 or 8 of them. And the leader of the group told us, like, that they had seen the movies posted and actually liked all the films that had been selected and were interested in checking it out, but it took them 2 months to get over here because they were just like, what's the catch? And so they're like, so tonight we decided we'd have enough to drink to come over here and find out what's really going on. So what's the catch? And we're like, there isn't really one. So we've done our best to be a bridge between worlds that maybe don't normally interact with each other with the degree of honesty and transparency that I think we've cultivated here. And I'm grateful to each of you for being a part of this. But it felt to me, November, December, like we'd kind of like stabilized and got born. And then I had a text from our property manager that said, can you come see me on Monday? Where he told me that they'd enacted the 6-month lease and that we got to be out by August 7th. They'd found another church that could pay a lot more money to be here than we could. And so we counteroffered and did the whole thing. And from there, we started exploring options. We had this one that just seemed, all these doors were opening, all these synchronicities. It just seemed like we were going to scoot right into this other church. And for about 2 days, I was like, Bobby, to think you were worried about any of this at all. And then that kind of blew up as a result of some stuff on the other. Anyway, I can tell you about this later if you want. And so for the last month and a half, we have found ourselves in a predicament that I have come to really appreciate. And it's a little bit like this. Kim Green, one of the founding board members of this church, sent me an email and was like, well, look, you spent 4 years giving teachings on letting go, accepting reality, not fighting to get your way, being content with what you have. And here we are, discernment, and here we are. And so the situation is, when reality won't comply with your desires for reality, will you kick open the door, find an open window, basically force yourself into somewhere that doesn't seem to be wanting or accepting you, which is totally possible and something we could have done if we weren't so tired. So when reality won't comply to your wishes for it, will you try to make it happen, or will you do slightly more difficult work of honoring reality as it is and being open to the opportunities that are presented, even if it's a situation that you wouldn't choose for yourself? And as a result of that, this new form that we're going to take has emerged. And I'm stoked about it. The level of freedom and lightness, like to exist without so much of the overhead and all of the maneuvers we've had to do to try to make rent, you know. I've had people tell me that they've sort of reduced their giving or held back from giving, quite frankly, because they don't want to pay $18,000 a month to a landlord to stay in the building. And I get that. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our new model for gathering. So going forward, the emphasis, that next slide there's got some little cherubs. There they are. The emphasis is just going to be on getting the message out. The good news for all people, which somehow over the course of 2,000 years and the way it's been presented, the good news for all people has become bad news for most people. And it doesn't seem to me it needs to be that way. And the good news for all people, it's just the gospel, which is that God is with you always. That you're already okay just as you are. That salvation isn't something that we achieve by behaving the right way or belonging to the right group or believing the right things, that salvation is the gift of life, that we come hardwired with it down at the core of our being. God has breathed each of us into being, that spirit, ruach, breath, wind, the same Hebrew word for all these things, ruach, that God breathes us into being, and that same breath is the foundational truth of who we are. That we can't find God like God is another object out in this sea of objects that we need to. The harder we look, the more distance often we experience in our minds. The good news is that you can call off the search. You are found before you are ever lost. You're grasped by what you cannot grasp. And that the only barriers between the experience of salvation and everything else St. Paul said, he named it like this. He said, there's all this animosity and this resentment that grows inside of us. And it's all the result of feeling separate from God in our minds. He said, once you felt alienated from God in your mind. This all takes place in our mind. Metanoia, repentance, means to go beyond the mind. And this makes it good news for all people. And so the emphasis going forward, we'll be getting the message out. And so we're going to release content every week. It'll be a full teaching. It's going to be live streamed on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. We're going to invite just like a small group of people over, most likely to our backyard for a little bit. And we're going to record a teaching. And we'll keep it like Socratic style, conversational like we like to do here. And we'll actually have the other folks, we'll have a microphone in the little group. And so when somebody else is sharing, you won't have to just like tune out and then hope that you get a good recap from the guy with the microphone after it's over. Be able to hear the whole thing. And so you can watch that live when we stream it at 10 a.m. on Saturday. But after it's recorded, we'll spend the week in post-production. I got a couple creative pals who have some interesting ideas on how to make these teachings engaging, not just like a talking head guy up there. But and so we'll spend a week in post-production editing, and then we'll release that the following Sunday at 10 a.m. So every Sunday, 10 a.m., the teaching will come out. And the way you can help with that is I can't believe I'm saying these words, like, share, and subscribe. Oh, my God. If you could just, but seriously, we should like, share, and subscribe. Yeah, if you follow that little QR code, it ought to take you to the YouTube page, and nothing would make me happier right now than if you liked, shared, and subscribed to that there. So you can watch the teaching live. You can watch it anytime once it's been edited and posted, or you can join a watch party. What's a watch party? Check out this graphic. I like how that one turned out. Watch party. What's a watch party, you ask? Let me tell you. These are going to happen in homes around the Jacksonville area for people who are looking for a weekly community touch point, because a big part of this whole experience is being together, obviously. We're sort of incomplete by design, and we need each other. And I know that for many of us, one of the biggest about the whole transition here is just missing that weekly touch point. I became really good friends with this guy over the course of a few years because we worked out together for 1 hour every week. And just because life is so chaotic and random, I don't think I had that much regularity with almost anybody else. And so there's something about it's in the calendar, I'm going. That's important with everything that's going on. So, the way these watch parties will work, it can be a private event. You can just invite a couple friends over and not tell anybody else about it. Have a secret handshake or something. Or if you'd like to open your home to the community, we're going to have a spot on the website that's going to be like Airbnb style. It'll be a map with the general area where the watch party is, and then your email address for anybody who's interested in joining. That way, new folks can find their way in. And once a month, we'll be all together now. So this is going to be the monthly gathering. And it's going to be at rented locations around the beaches area. Tunes, teaching, meditation, Eucharist, friendship, classes for the kids. I want to do as many of these outside as we can. And so we'll most likely be going between two locations. One being the Ribault Garden Club. That'll be our indoor spot. That's in North Jacks Beach. 2nd Avenue North, yep. And then the second will be Dutton Island. You know, you guys ever get out there to Dutton Island? It's, yeah? It's insane. There's this little island. You can take this little bridge. It's just right up the street. It's a campground. It has 8 sites. It's absolutely beautiful on the marsh. The only problem is the marsh gnats, you know, they like get in your beard and your eyes and stuff. They don't really care about your bug spray or futile attempts to keep them away. It can get kind of biblical out there. So on those months, we'll be at the Rebalk Garden Club. But the other months, we'll be meeting outside at Dutton Island, and we have an idea to rent the whole island, a la, you know, Max Danger, he and his crew, they have something called Honey Island. They rent the whole island, have this whole EDM festival. So we'll probably do the same thing, just EDM, just getting after it out there in the forest. It's just... It's orthodox. It's been, church has been practicing it since the dawn of the Casio. Yeah, anyway. So we'll rent a couple campsites and do like a retreat, like a 2-night retreat, Friday and Saturday, straight into the Sunday gathering. That's all together now. And then also, lastly, Local Love will be another ongoing touch point for community building. This will be through service. For some of us sitting in a house talking about the deepest things there are to possibly talk about with people that are acquaintances or maybe strangers is totally normal and easy to do. For others of us, that's a big ask, but we still want to have the community experience. And so just like doing things together is a great way to connect. And so Local Love is the Vines partnership with service organizations in the area, such as Beam, Beaches Emergency Assistance Ministry, the Mission House, and the Boys and Girls Clubs at the Donner and Jordan Park Community Centers. These partnerships are organized and facilitated by Sam, Al, Cindy, and Katie, most of whom I think are in here. There's Cindy, there's Al. Oh, there's Sam. All right, so everybody but Katie. So, get with them to find out a little bit more about Local Love, but all this will be on the website and stuff too. If you want to join Local Love, please do. Yeah, how do you do that? You email locallove@beachesvineyard.net. Right on. Yeah, or talk to one of these fine earthlings. Yes, that's the format. You guys got any questions about that before we? Yeah. Okay, yeah, check your spam folders. Bobby Spam at beachesvineyard.net. Yep, good question. So what happened? Totally. So what do we do if it's raining or snowing or there's lightning in the area? Yeah. Well, we'll fortunately, we have a strong and ongoing partnership with Spring River School, who meets outdoors. And so they have a vast number of resources regarding predicting the unpredictable. So we'll just keep an eye on the storms, and if we think we can't pull it off, we'll either reschedule for the following week. The nice thing is it's once a month. So if we need to bump it back a week, we'll do that. And also, we'll have locations in mind to where we can survive most things, unless it's going to be a little too hairy. So. Oh, yes. You don't like that? Okay, good news. Neither does anybody else. Yeah. All right. Do you want? Yeah, it's a great question. So welcome to the experimentation. I can tell you a little bit about some of the thinking behind that. The thinking went something like, well, I don't even know if it's worth it getting into. We're not going to do that. How about that? Yeah, no, we don't do it now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so actually, we're going to talk about budget stuff, so we can kind of circumvent that. But rest assured, this will not be a ticketed event. Yeah. Anything else? No, we're going to do our best to keep it the fourth Sunday. Yeah, so the fourth Sunday of every month, and just between, as best we can, just between two locations too, so it's not too confusing. Yeah, that's a good question. Anything else? Yeah. So like for the watch parties, if you'd like to open, and there's already been 3 people who offered. This was born out of 3 separate folks' wild generosity to just say like, hey, look, you guys can just meet in my backyard. I got a pool, a little cabana, and there's plenty of parking. And we're like, oh, that's so kind. So, so the idea will be basically what you said. Well, if you'd like to open your house up to everybody, to whoever's interested, then we'll have a map, and the map will show the general area. So you live off of Gervin, so you'll have a little circle right there, and it'll say watch party meeting here at this time, Sundays at 10, to join, to get the address for more information, email, and then it'll just have your email address. So we'll kind of remove some of the management stuff that would have to happen to coordinate all that, and just let it happen between whoever's hosting and whoever's interested in attending. And then if they send you a weird email that makes you feel uncomfortable, you don't have to give them your address. Yeah. Or if you want to explore more deeply, go for it. Yep. Yeah, so that'll be up to you. So my original pitch was give us a week to edit it and then watch it the following Sunday. But there were a few people that were like, oh, I'd rather see it like while it's happening. And so you can kind of choose. If you want to do it live, it'll be most likely Saturdays at 10. But if you want to watch the recorded one the following week, then it could be whenever you want. But we'll just suggest Sundays at 10 for uniformity's sake. Because we like to keep things real uniform. And we're not going to budge on that. Until next week. It's almost like it's a growing, evolving thing or something. Anybody else? All right. You guys are doing great. All right, so this is my dear pal, John Gonzalez. He's been on the board here since March of 2022, which was the transition there. And I'm not going to gush about you. Here you go, man.
Hey, church. I'm John Gonzalez, a.k.a. Johnzo the Gonzo. And I get the honor of talking to you folks about the finances this morning. First up, giving it up to Bobby. I've been churching here in this church for 16 years now. So a lot of it's been a journey. Let's just say the last 3 years. I certainly am honored to have been asked to join the board and try to remove the traditional definition of what that would involve. It's been great, and I've learned a whole lot about myself. I know it sounds cliche, but a whole lot about a lot of you that have hung out and kind of stuck it out through this process and have found your voice and your willingness to contribute, and it wouldn't have gone this far without you. So thanks to all of you for that. And just seeing, you hear change of leadership, right? It has a whole lot wrapped up behind it, but I've been able to see an unsuspected leader totally shine through and become the leader that I wish that I was personally. So, and there's more to come, right? I mean, one thing that as you hear the transition, and I really hope that you'll stick with us. As you can see, it's kind of fluid, and hopefully you see that everybody here. Sorry, I got my back to half of you. Very open to suggestion here. I mean, you are the church body, and we kind of rely on your feedback here to solidify really the direction that we're going to go. Discernment was a big part of that, and I'm sure it has been in your lives too, because every week we show up and there's unconventional worship and gathering and fellowship, but at the end of it, it's beautiful. And this is just part of, I guess, my journey, right? Is how I understand how I'm processing that. And so just continue to provide some feedback, even if you don't feel like this is a place. Thanks, Beth. Thank you. Stick with us here. So with that said, I think we got some slides we'll walk through. I'm going to have to go do this again. Sorry, everybody. All right, so the breakdown. We, first and foremost, like Bobby touched on, there is a cost to operate, right? Under this new model, under any model where there's a service to be provided and consumers of that service. So we think that this is the best foot forward. We are looking for $145,000 annually in giving. That is about, guys, that's about $200,000 or more annually, less than what we are currently operating under. And I'm personally excited about this, not because we've just been trying to make it work in this beautiful, ugly, falling apart building, but if we pull this off, this allows so much freedom for Bobby to be able to do what he does best, and like I said, to be able to just start shining through with wisdom and continued leadership. So we think that this is totally worth it. So again, most of the giving will be to fund leadership. And I don't know about you, I don't want him to get a second job here. So the production efforts, there's going to be a crew to actually help him achieve this. The actual operations involved in that, the facilities, although it's not what it is now, it will take some facilities. Debt repayment. So this is kind of the ugly part, that the ugly reality that we have been trying to make it work here. God's done amazing things to get us where we are today, but we've still incurred a little bit of debt as a result of being 85-ish% funded month after month. So trying to, again, put our best foot forward here. And then a contingency, which plays into the debt, right? If we had a bit of a contingency, we maybe wouldn't have the debt. So trying to grow in this. We have got kind of a monthly giving guide. And if you're familiar with the membership, and I know some people take the perception of that differently, but it's a move away from passing the plate, right? This idea that we have a set percentage that we're biblically obligated to to give to make the church operate. So this is adaptation, right? This is what we think is the best foot forward. So the suggested giving would be $25 to $50 a month. As a start, this covers film, family, most of what you've seen here on the left side. $100 to $200 a month supports our gatherings. There's a lot of planning that's already been achieved in this, securing the locations, coming up with really a good program in this. And there's a lot more detail that we don't have time for, obviously, if it's okay. So please, again, we invite the inquiry. And then the anchor members, $300 is probably pretty close to what you're giving now. So $300 and up will really secure a stellar program moving forward. So I think I have some notes here. Thank you, Bobby. Monthly giving guide. This will be available on the website, along with a lot of other information. And again, just kind of take it for what it is. Ultimately, we want you to interrogate what's on your heart to give. What is this? What are the teachings? What does the community mean to you, and your ability to support it and your willingness to support it? So we just hope that you are prayerful about that and honest with yourself. Secure give will remain the same. Obviously, if you want to log in and change the donations, it's still user friendly. We're in the process of legally changing our name. So right now it's Beaches Vineyard Christian Fellowship of Jacksonville Beaches. Yeah, thank you, Don, our business manager. We thought it time, and we've talked about this in here, to as we move on and adapt to change the name. So the Vine Contemplative, little nostalgia hat tip to what's got us here so far, and adding contemplation as the root of the teaching and the practice that you all take home with you. So you may see on Secure Give the title change. You'll see the title change in some of the communications and stuff. And we just invite you guys to give us some feedback on all of that. So it's a moving target. God's in the middle of it, and just thank you. Love you all.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see here. Is there time for comments and questions? Trying to figure out how to. Yeah, we got to. That'll be fine. Yes.
The rest of the world, our local world, whatever. But I did want to share that I maybe
Yeah, that's the plan. Is the bulletin that comes out the week before the All Together Now gathering will also have the month to date giving, so we're all on the same page about how close we are or how much we've exceeded the minimum need. I think something that is exciting to me about this is it's 145,000. So the group that we are and that we have been has somehow miraculously month after month managed to donate nearly $40,000. It's between like $32,000 and $40,000. That's just what we need to operate, and that just keeps coming in and has kept coming in. This is significantly less expensive than the current model, but also it's a moment of transition. And so as part of this like transparency thing, we're also telling everybody like, look, for some people, this is going to be an off-ramp, and that's okay. It's a big change. And we all need to be free to be honest enough with ourselves to examine how much of what we do out of loyalty or familiarity or habit, and then to choose to continue to invest as we are, or, just to keep it real. But I think it's a fairly realistic goal that we can just within the core group of who we are, we can hit this number. And then when we gather and invite people, it doesn't need to be to a ticketed event. It really can be completely free, because maybe we can get out of there's this like business ethic. If you're not growing, you're dying. Like, I don't want to live like that. I don't even think it's true. And so to be able to offer this to anybody without that, just to not have that thing in there where it's like, man, I sure hope they get connected and start to give, because like we don't really need to grow. Like, the facilities aren't going to get any more expensive. I'm fine waiting on the private jet that,
Growth is how you define it, though, right? So we've got a team of people that are going out in the community and serving. I mean, to me, that is growth. I'm not scared of that word. I invite it. It's just not in the traditional sense of how big can we get to reach more people. Like, we've got plenty of work to do here in Jacksonville and at the beaches. So, and there will be transparency in the finances. Anything that is a surplus, you'll watch exactly where it's going to go. And the invitation to feedback. If there's some place where you want it to go, let's make it happen.
really good. Yeah, so the funding will stay the same. We'll keep going through Secure Give. The name's changing, but our like tax ID info's all staying the same, so it shouldn't disrupt any current reoccurring gifts. If anything changes with that, we'll let you know. But yeah. All right, you'll probably come up with some more questions as you're helping us get organized. So I would say let's take a break there. I'll be hanging around. John's hanging around. We're always available. Don, business manager, up there. So if anything comes to you in the next little bit, questions that you have, come stop one of us. Email me, bobby@beachesvineyard.net. But for now, if you're game, let's get our food situated. If you brought some food, make sure that's all set up right. And then just pick a room. You can go to the dock. You can go to the kids' area. You can hang out here in the sanctuary. Whatever room you go to, there's going to be a staff member there with a punch list, and we're just going to get things organized, minimized, and ready to go. Also, if you see anything that you like, if you got your chair that you always sit in every week and you think, I don't know how I'm going to go on without this chair to sit in every week, you can have the chair. You can buy it. Everything is just like suggested donation. So bring it to the watch party. Bring your chair with you. So anyway, everything's up for grabs. So love you guys. Thank you for being here. Yeah, if it appears to have sacred value, maybe just run it by us before you walk off with it. But start in the hallway. The lobby is a cafe, so we'll leave that alone for now. All right, love y'all. Thank you.